Okay, welcome to the Story About Pizza podcast. And I have as my first guest the owner of DArcs Pizza, Emery D'Arcangelo, and Sharon D'Arcangelo from the Story About Pizza book. And so we're going to talk about the DArcs Pizza and the history and a bunch of different stuff on today's podcast. So, how are you guys doing?
We're doing fine. It's a pleasure for us to speak with you today, Erica.
Very good. Well, I don't know if I mentioned this. These are my parents. So, my first podcast is with my parents. So here's our first couple questions. So first question is for my dad. So dad, what was it like growing up in a pizzeria? Because when you were born, I think the pizzeria was it open or was the market open?
Both was open. We had half of the pizza shop was a market. It was open during the day, and then in the evening, the pizza shop ran and was operating. Then, with the exception of Friday, we used to make pizza at lunchtime for the people in the sewing factory. So, so it's a bit of both. And growing up in that environment was wonderful because when you're in a close Italian family, you spend a lot of time with family members, and of course, you eat wonderful, wonderful food every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, Mom, you started working at DArcs Pizza when you were what, 14 years old?
Well, when I started, I mostly was just helping Grandma pass the pizzas out.
Okay, so let's just paint the picture here. So you have Windber, PA, and you have the east end of Windber, which is Little Italy, and all the Italians live there. And then you have the west end of Windber, and you have the Polish, the Irish, and the Slovakians. And so your dad is an Irish car salesman. Your
And
mom is Polish.
my mother's Polish, but DArcs Pizza Shop was a high school hangout.
Okay, so let's just tell me the story about what happened here.
So the story is that I was a Windber high school cheerleader, and I had my eye on your father. And so I thought it would be a good idea that when the pizza shop was open after the basketball games and football games, that I would just find myself helping your grandmother to pass out pizzas to all the high school kids.
Okay, and when you walked in there, because I knew my grandparents, my grandma Pauline and Grandy, and they were very conservative people. And when you walked into DArcs Pizza and you met the D'Arcangelo family, Pete and Nicolette, what did you think?
They were such warm and giving people and very generous with everybody. And the fact that they allowed all the high school kids from the school to come into their shop, I just thought that was the greatest thing that ever happened.
Yeah, yeah. So then what you showed up there, you were helping Grandma DArc, and then this is where this romance started.
Maybe right around that time.
It did, and oftentimes we'd go to the drive-in movie, and first thing we would do is stop at the pizza shop, get a box of 6 pieces of pizza with pepperoni, and of course a couple of pork sandwiches. That way, when we went to the drive-in, we could eat while we're watching the movies.
And then from that time, how did you see the pizza shop evolve, like in both of your lives?
Sharon, what do you think? How did it evolve?
Well, while your father was in college, and of course I graduated and went to college, and when I found myself living in that area, I stayed in close contact with your grandparents. I didn't really work there until after you were born, and your dad and I were married. But of course, the Windber was such a small town. And as I said, DArcs was definitely a place where everybody was welcome. I kept in touch. So that's pretty much where that started.
I mean, keep in mind, we've been open 65 years of 1960, and then Mom and I got together my senior year in 1971.
I would have been 16.
Right.
Okay.
And I was a senior high school. Mom was a 10th grader.
Okay. What has it meant for you guys to be part of this shop? I mean, because it's been almost both of your whole lives. I mean, Dad, it's been your whole life, and Mom, it's been a lot of your life.
It's a lot of my life because when we got married and we decided to have a family,
Yeah.
I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I found myself in the shop first with you because you're the oldest child.
Yeah.
And I found myself helping your grandmother. And my grandmother on the Holleran side, the Irish side, had her restaurant, which when I was very young, I helped her. And
Mhm.
so I found myself thinking that I could make some changes there. And I think through the years, it just evolved into more of a restaurant instead of what it was, which was a meat market and a grocery store. I just thought it had great potential. And so for 35 years, I worked there, and I believe that that's how it transformed.
Yeah, family restaurants are held together by family members. Different family members step up at different times, and that's kind of how we survived 60 years.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the evolution of the food, it was like the plain and the pepperoni pizza, and then it seemed like it was like the meatball and the hot sausage sandwiches.
It's always been the same.
Yeah, and then how were some of the other stuff added?
Mostly what was added were different toppings on pizzas. Dad's, in my travel to Italy, we decided to do the Italian Italian sandwich, and also the panini. What else?
Well, we added and then we started with the Aunt Rose's meatballs in the cast iron skillet with the homemade focaccia bread. We learned how to make the focaccia bread by traveling to Italy. I had a friend of mine that owns La Pizzeria restaurant, which you're familiar with in Levanto, and he taught me how to make the focaccia bread. And of course, my mom's homemade wedding soup is a big hit. So we have a pretty simple menu. We make our own homemade rolls, homemade buns, salad soups, and we don't do pasta because we have a good restaurant up the street that does pasta, and we all respect each other, so we don't compete with each other.
Yeah, Rizzo's.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
also started the Mike's Pie after our travels to Italy.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
the round, thin, and crispy pizza, and that's named, as you know, after your youngest brother, Mike.
And then what is you guys' favorite pizza?
Sharon, what's your favorite pizza?
Oh, well, it
Puttanesca.
depends on what day, but I do love the puttanesca, which is the capers and the anchovies and the black olives and hot peppers. But I also like the hot pepper and pepperoni.
I make one that puts a little bit of salami, hot peppers, black olives, and I like to cook it crispy and crunchy. Mom likes it the same way. So when you cut it, you hear it crunching. But yeah, I mean, pizza, it's all good.
Well, my favorite pizza in the summer is when we take our homegrown tomatoes and our homegrown basil, and we do the tomato basil pizza. That's really a great one.
And you like it with cheese or with no cheese?
It depends on the day, but I love it both ways.
Okay.
And we grow the basil plants right outside our back door, so it's nice in the summertime because we get the fresh tomatoes out of Mom's garden. We get the basil from outside of our house, outside the pizza shop, and we have really good imported olive oil. So you put olive oil on top of on the tomatoes. It's a really good dish.
Yeah, it is. And what do you think? Like, what are your main takeaways from Italian culture that you want to pass down to us?
Family first, and family first. And along with that means good food, good fellowship. As you know, every Sunday was Sunday meal together, and all the pictures you see on the wall behind us. So when we get together, there's 18 of us, and it makes for a wonderful time. What do you think, Sharon?
Family and food, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, well, you guys are familiar with the book. You both read the book. So what is your takeaway? Like, what was your favorite part of the book?
First of all, the book is a really good historical look at immigration. How important was it for the immigrants from Italy to come here and work? And in a little town of Windber, which is a coal mining town, they were the backbone and the foundation of that town. And then what you read through the entire book is how an Italian family sticks together and follows their dreams. The dream there was for my father, Pietro, to open a pizzeria. And that's what I took from the book. Eric, Sharon, what do you think?
Well, it was so heartwarming for me because I lived that life. My grandparents were also coal miners, and they were immigrants. My grandfather on my mother's side was a Polish immigrant, and on the Irish side from Ireland, immigrants, and all worked in the coal mines. So I lived that life. So it was, extremely heartwarming for me to read about it, and, just about your father's family and how I was so included because, of course, I was Polish and Irish.
I mean, we're proud that we've been together over 50 years and have 5 children and 4 grandchildren. and still have the legacy of a family business. We're blessed.
Great. And what are your favorite recipes?
Well, I love the homemade ravioli. I make them for Christmas Day every year. I make about 100 homemade ravioli. They don't last very long with a family of 18 people, but I like the ravioli. And of course, I like making the sauce, different sauces. Mom's favorite dish is spaghetti, I think. I don't know.
I love a good dish of spaghetti.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about it.
But because we have different backgrounds and cultures, we both really like to cook the different foods that we were raised with. So I think it's nice that we're able to do that.
Sharon's mom, Pauline, made some of the best soups, and she used to come in our pizza shop too. When Mom worked there, and she would make different homemade soups, and she's a great cook also. And I love the Polish food and all kind of good food.
For more information about the book, go to storyaboutpizza.com, or you can search a story about pizza on Google. And if you'd like to go and stop into DArcs Pizza, their website is DArcsPizza.com. You can also go there anytime between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m., Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can eat there, and they do takeout and delivery.
Yeah, the book is very heartwarming, and it's a great story. I hope that people purchase the book because it's a really special book.
Okay, thank you guys for being on. I love you both.